Hello. So, I'm not sure how I'm gonna edit this, but I made a foil with aluminium foil as conductor, and I had quite some troubles. In the end, it works, and I can probably repeat it, but it's a major amount of work, which should not be the case. Or at least I think there are other ways to do this. I mean, it's nice that the CNC cut out the whole, foil thing, looks really nice and such, but it's not very practical, especially with a small machine I got. So another option is use aluminium tape. I got a few different size tapes, but nothing that is small enough and thick enough to compare. So that's not an option. Unless I cut my own tape, but I don't have a roll to do it with. I only have huge rolls, and I'm not gonna sacrifice those. So I have to order a smaller roll and do the slitting thing I did once back in the day, and hopefully it works for a thicker tape. Who knows? Might be. I think it is actually quite possible that it works. So that's one option, using a tape, as I did in a previous rebuild, or at least wire to foil. And now I'm going to do the opposite. Yes, why? Well, I foiled one panel and it's playing right now, and it works, but I don't know, there's not much benefit of having foil for the low end, in my opinion. I still have this opinion. But to be sure, I am gonna refoil this one. Not gonna use the aluminium tape, but I'm gonna use aluminium wire. And then we have two clean panels that are exactly the same, except for one has foil, one has wire. So I even gonna do the amount of wire so I can reach the same impedance as the aluminium foil, although that's even an impedance that is a bit higher than I wished for. But since it's already on there, I'm not gonna rip that and redo that and then do this one. That's too much work. I'm gonna aim for the same impedance, which is 4.5 ohms. It's weird, I calculated for 3.9 or 3.8 ohms, but somewhere along this calculation and the cutting, I don't know, it went wrong. What I think is it cuts off with the knife on both sides of the trace. So you lose something there. That might account for a tiny bit. Where the rest is coming from might be a calculation error, or it's not actually 50 microns thick, but maybe a tiny bit thinner. Who knows? I mean, I cannot measure that. I'm gonna do a wire version. Why? Because it's easier. I only have to attach the mylar. I have a very shitty tensioning jig, which I will use maybe, hopefully, for the last time. But it was specially made for this panel, so I will use it. So I'll lose a lot of time in doing that. There are much faster ways, like foiling two panels in one go. It's twice as fast, of course, as you can imagine, which saves a lot of time. But for now, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned, annoying way. And then when there is foil, I'm gonna make or remake one of these jigs. These were for this panel actually, but it also had the tweeter wires, which I will not use anymore. This is not gonna house any tweeter. So I thought, can I modify these? And no. So I have to make new ones. So this should be able to, I can cut it out of this thing. And then it will have only the base portion thingies. Now, since wires have a certain diameter, I did have to loop the wire a few more times, which might even be beneficial, because I'm gonna have one wire in each gap everywhere except for the outer 4. It's gonna have 2 wires. And then if it's all correct, I'll end up with almost exactly the same impedance as the foiled one in my living room is right now. And then we should be able to make a decent comparison. There's one flaw that might fuck it all up, which is resonance. I'm not sure if I can hit the same resonance as the other panel. It's really hard if you don't have a normal or decent method of measuring the current tension. So I tried the pencil stripe thingy on the jig thingy, so you can see how much it you tension the foil. The line you drew will like expand. It's not ideal, I think. There must be a better way. I think about maybe either weight, which is always the same, or maybe use a wrench with like this rattle function, the ones you can like adjust for pounds per whatever it's called, and do something with that. That might work, but it's only the case if you always use the same jig and the same amount of mylar. But I'll explain in another video maybe when I'm ever gonna build it. So for now I'm gonna make first a wire jig, then I'm gonna foil this, then we're gonna glue some wires on, then I'll put it in a frame, and then we'll see. Then we'll see what is best, wire or foil. And there is a thing, yes, if it has to play really high in frequency, then foil would be better. And that's without any question, at the cost of a little bit of SPL. But for low end, I'm not too sure yet if foil is that much better. So that's why I always, if you look at a Magnepan, and if you look at the quasi-base portion, you can see that the foil is so narrow. And the reason is, they want it to be in between these magnets to have as much output as possible. Now by doing so, there's not a huge amount of benefit between wires and foil. The only thing I can think of is that it might be a tiny bit flatter than wire and a little bit wider, but not much. If you compare them to the tweeter wires, they're much wider, and there's a reason for that. Because there, the wire or conductor to conductor distance, the space in between, that kind of either makes your tweeter go high or fucks it up. And for the base portion, that's not a problem, so they chose for small traces. So all the current will be in the space it has the most magnetic field. That's my idea, at least. But if you have another idea, post it underneath. Okay, I better get started. So the same piece as I showed earlier, but done correct for at least this design. Anyhow, I need all these. I could get new ones, but these are already tapped, so I'll unscrew those. So there are two different ones. This is just round, and this has a lip. That's the top one. And we'll hold the wire so it doesn't like fall off every time you move it. So this is my tensioning jig. Far from ideal, but it's the only thing I got right now, so I have to work with it. So it is MDF, and there's a bicycle tire around it, so I can pump air in it and stretch the foil. So what I'll do, I'll mount the mylar with double-sided tape, which sometimes works, sometimes not so much. But yeah, I don't have any other options right now, so that's what I'll do. Yes. Problem with this method is that usually the tape fills somewhere. So that's not very nice. Yeah. So now I'm gonna lay out a piece of mylar, put this frame on top of it, and then stick it to the double-sided tape. So I'll remove the tape first. So I've seen this picture once before. Then I'll fold it in. So frame on top. Then I start out with the short sides. Then so if it feels always tape from wood, not from the mylar. Oh, there's one thing I want to do. So the first things that will pop is usually here. So what I can do is add a piece of tape here. So here's the valve. If I can reach it. There it is. I'll put a tiny bit of air in there. Just to stretch it up a little bit. Then I'll try this marker thing, but that never worked for me. So here's the marker. And I mark it here. Oh, that's a big blob. Well, let's mark it here then. And I know it has to be halfway. At least that's what I did last time, so hopefully that. So from here, halfway towards this next point there. But I don't know, this is, for me, I think it's rather random, this method. 3M30 enough glue. I use a kitchen sponge that I cut in a few pieces, and I'll just glue this thing up. Hey. Leave that to dry. I cannot force dry that one, but I can force dry the. Why is my camera stand falling apart? Stop doing that, please. Ow! This one I can force dry, so. I'll give it a tiny scuff, I think. I pumped in some air with this thing. My mark moved around 2 millimeters. That was my goal. Since that's where I did the other panel at. Hopefully it will match up a little bit. I'm not sure. Whoop. Okay, I'll remove my pump. Then the task of standing on the thing begins.
What's your okay.
It's not a nice idea to know that I have to redo this or the other one. I'll just run my fingers across the whole glued surface, like this. To make sure it is attached. One step down. So I wired the jig up so you can see the pattern the wire goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then the whole thing. Then it comes back and does 4 more up, down, or actually 2 up, down, then it goes to here, up, down, and then there are the connection points. I tensioned it a little bit. I snapped a wire there, the connection wire, which is quite annoying, so I hope it's long enough. It would be so incredible annoying if it's not. I'm not gonna waste all my wire. Anyhow, I'll give it a light coat of 3M30NF, just with a sponge, a few times, and then I'll do the panel. So just like, where did I leave it? Now the panel. Looks like a lot, but it's not that much. I can use the air gun, but I have to be careful not to lower the resonance. So that's about dried. Now we'll dump on the wires and hope for the best. Should work. But it's been a while since I did this, to be fair. So first I'll line them up, hopefully. Yes, something like this, I believe. Now there was a method I used, I think, to put them downwards. I think it was something with a squeegee. So let's try. Didn't align up perfectly everywhere, I must say. Sounds like I'm demolishing things, but that's not the case. So now hopefully I could like unscrew these. Relieve the tension. I believe. So I did lose my wires here, so that's good. Free my connection wires down here. So the taped one is a bit harder because I taped it down on the bottom side. Now I should be able to move this a little bit my way, and they should come off. Now I have to fix the last thingy's manual. Didn't go perfect. Looks kind of disgusting. But I think it has to do with the way I put the wires on. Well, there is no glue here on these wires because I could not coat them, of course, so I have to attach glue on there and then pop them down. So I'll just exaggerate in the amount of glue I use. But that's okay for here, this part. This is not moving, or at least hopefully not too much. I'll do the same at the other side. Now I remember why I didn't like this method all that much either. Because it sucks. I'll just hit it with a heat gun a little bit. Okay, fiddly bit, tack these down, then completely coat the panel once more. So yes, quite a lot of glue. So I'll just stick them in the wetted area and it holds. At least I hope. Yeah, so the problem is I did the wiring wrong. And now I had to cross another wire, which is not a good idea, of course. But that is what is happening here. I don't know, maybe I do like the foiling method better. Now I'll give it one complete coat, and especially on the outer edges where it makes the turns. I do need a new sponge. Maybe use this one. The sponge is a bit crappy. I'll grab another one. This is sticky. So this works much better. So I'll just give it a coat, and all the extra glue will end up at the end of the panel, where I need more glue anyway, so. And it doesn't hurt to have some extra glue there. So that's my theory. Like here. Looks real messy, but it will be fine. I promise. See, it looks like shit now, but maybe it already did, but I'll leave the rest to dry on its own. Next up will be soldering the wire. I'll do that off screen, and then finally we can measure something.